These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread. We're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder.
There we go. Look at that. I managed to get a couple of things right off the bat. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. Well, the beginnings of the show as we finish the countdown and make sure that everything is working. This should be just a hoot and a holler. Well, let's get started.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time for WordPress plugins A to Z, not Z.
Talking about unpopular ideas in the WordPress today, news tips, more coming to you from Plugin Pulse, WordPress plugins A to Z Unplugged.
WordPress, the king of content management systems, powering the web with over 80,000 plugins to choose from. How do you sort the junk from the gems? Welcome to WP Plugins A to Z, where we've been keeping the pulse of WordPress alive for over 16 incredible years. Join us every week for an unrehearsed, real talk breakdowns of the latest and greatest plugins, developer and community member interviews. Some weeks, Amber and I team up to dig in. Others, I'm flying solo, unpacking WordPress news, demoing a standout plugin, or sharing tips to power up your site. No scripts, no fluff, just the good stuff from A to Z. So plug in and let's get rolling.
Oh, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be hiding out there on the globe state. Coming to you direct from the brewery overlooking beautiful southern Vancouver Island. This is a coffee-fueled ADHD trip into the WordPress land, and no subject is really off topic. Well, maybe. It all depends on how touchy they might be, but I'm flying solo, and I'm about to explore something I haven't done in a long time, and that is unpopular ideas in WordPress, or they're popular in some circles, but not others. It's very interesting. We've got all kinds of little tips and tidbits that I've gathered up to see if I can get this into a decent, halfway decent show as I try to figure out how to do a show on my own. which I haven't done for God knows how long. At any rate, let's just dive right into it. First thing I've got is a bit of a rant about the WordPress plugin system and the theming ecosystem, not just the system, the theming ecosystem and the WordPress ecosystem, or the plugin ecosystem. Now, I've said this a few times before in the past, and that is I feel like the themes are on their way out the door. I've said it before for a few years, and they managed to hang on a lot longer than I thought they would. They're starting to disappear now. The all-in-one encompassing themes that everyone used to use, including myself. I used to use them continuously for a very long time until I realized the flaws in that logic and that you need a bare bones theme. You got to have a theme, but you need something that's stripped of everything and you put it all in there. That is why I started using Elementor with just a hello theme, which has nothing. If you use the free version, it's got a header and a footer built into it. But if you use the pro version, it's got nothing, not even headers and footers. You build all that with Elementor and throw it all in there. But the plugin system is a whole nother animal. That one there is what this show has been built on for over 16 years, of course, and that is the fact that plugins are what drive WordPress. Without plugins, we wouldn't have the e-commerce stores. We wouldn't have the massive systems of people that have big membership sites. We wouldn't have the selling of pretty much anything. We wouldn't have the organization of all of the different types of categories and posts and pages. Basically, everything about WordPress is plugins. Even the SEO system, the base SEO for WordPress, it'll get you there. But if you really want to extend it, you've got to go into a plugin. Yeah, you can go into some of the more bloated SEO plugins, or you could just write your own. Or as Amber reviewed a couple of weeks ago on the show, she reviewed a very simple base SEO plugin that was just the bare bones basics. That was really good to go. So it's like plugins are what is needed for this, to extend the code. That is the whole joy of WordPress, is you can extend it out to do anything you want. So what we've got on this, now that I've gone through that rant, I'll come back around to that in a couple of minutes. And what I'm looking at first here is WordPress and the evangelists. Now, there's been some talk in the last couple of weeks about the cool kids have left WordPress. That was started by Icono Nick here. He's managed to start several discussions in the last 2 or 3 weeks with his blog posts. Stuff that people have been thinking about, but nobody's been voicing. He's been sticking voices to that stuff again. Many of what he's putting a voice to is stuff that I've been thinking about or I've only minorly voiced. So I brought a few of his things here today to talk about, and it helps go into, this morning I was watching WP Builds podcast, and they were talking about all these exact things. And of course, that's because that is the news at the moment. So at any rate, one of his posts, the first one I wanted to talk about, is becoming a WordPress evangelist. Well, you want to be the evangelist. And as I read through the article, I was like, I actually was that evangelist back in the beginning of WordPress. I helped mix the Kool-Aid. It seems people are mixing a new batch of Kool-Aid for WordPress again. There seems to be more and more people jumping into the WordPress space, people that have built themselves a career, now they want to reinvigorate WordPress, and new people who are just figuring it out. Now, some of the discussion that they had, and you can go catch it at, let's see here. Let's bring this one up real quick. There we go. I'll bring this up. Right in here, today's, I'll make sure the link is in the show notes, right around the 55 minute mark. Right about here.
You are, I'm sure, right, that there's probably people who've had a similar idea in the...
So they started discussing all of the different things around this, and this is the part where they started discussing about plugins, which we'll be going into those in a few minutes and talking about plugins, the WordPress repo system, my opinions and viewpoints about the WordPress repo system. But back to the evangelist part of this, what we're looking at here is if you want to have other people excited about something, you have to talk about it to anyone and everyone who will listen, even those who want to listen. Those are the people that like, I've heard it all the time. I'm tired of listening to it. Next thing you know, they call you up. Last couple of months, I've actually had people that started having to deal with WordPress, and they're going, oh, who do I know? And they contact me up, and it's like, I haven't heard from them in 5, 10, 15 years. And they say, you do WordPress, right? So yeah, well, I need your help now. So it's like I planted some very long-term seeds. They took a long time to grow, but they came to fruition. So that's the one thing you can always keep in mind, is that does happen. Is people that you've talked to and evangelized to about something, they'll come back to you when it's like, oh, it's time for me to actually do something with this. And the hard part about this now is I don't have someone else to keep talking while I sip my coffee. So now I got to stop and take a sip of coffee. All right, well, let's wander over and have a little look-see. That's what I should do. I know what I can do. Here we go. Time for coffee. Reconnect back to the world. All right, welcome to the show, those that are here. New batch of Kool-Aid is strong. Yes, it is. Worst WordPress. That's an interesting name. Okay, yes, the new batch of Kool-Aid is strong, and I'm helping to remix this batch of Kool-Aid. Reinvigorate WordPress. There's been a lot of invigoration in the last couple of weeks. In this last year, there's been a lot of invigoration. So anyway, back to talking about the WordPress plugins. And this is another article that Nick put out, and that was the WordPress Discovery Experiment. I don't have a link to, I forgot to get the link to his, he created a search engine for searching out WordPress plugins and finding them. It's a very good search engine, but the big thing was on his articles, he's talking about the Discovery Experiment. And this is something I've complained about ever since they removed from the WordPress backend. When you went to add a new plugin in WordPress, you used to get a couple of tabs back there. The couple of tabs were the featured plugins, which have always been there, and they used to be more varied than they are now. I mean, now they are so piss poorly varied. Let's bring up something here. Let's go bring up something just so we can showcase what this looks like. Let's pop this in here. There we go. Okay, when you go to add a new plugin in the back end of WordPress, they give you featured, popular, recommended, and direct install, and Elementor adds its own tab in here where if you're using Elementor, it adds this tab in here so you can find plugins that are specifically for Elementor. I kind of like that little feature. I only recently realized that was even there. Direct install, this is where you can go download a plugin ID to get it and download it. Oh, it seems I still have the Fair plugin activated on this website. Let's go deactivate the Fair plugin here because I forgot I had it on here. This is my test site, so I was playing with the Fair plugin. And go find it in the 4,200 plugins I have installed on this site. There it is. Because the Fair plugin actually gives you a more realistic view of what's in the WordPress repo versus what WordPress default does. And this one here has annoyed me for a long time. Here it is. Featured, popular, recommended. Featured, always the same featured plugins. It never, ever changes. Akismet, always number one. We know, well, my viewpoint on Akismet is useless. Jetpack, another useless plugin in my personal viewpoint. Gutenberg, well, that could be useful if you were using it as a plugin and it wasn't crammed into the core. The Health Truck and Troubleshooter, that one's always useful. Performance Lab, yes. But these are always the same. They never change. No matter what I do. Brand new website, fresh out the box. I just installed it and I go to activate install a new plugin. Boom. These are the ones they get. The popular ones, again, always the same plugins. Elementor, Yoast, Contact Form 7, Classic Editor, WooCommerce, Lightspeed. They're the most installed plugins. It never varies. So nobody ever gets a chance to be in the popular. Recommended. Let's see what they got there. Again, recommended. Same thing as the featured, pretty much. That's actually recommended and featured. Let's take a look at this. Let's put them side by side. That's one I never looked at. Oh, wait a sec. There's the featured. There's the recommended. Same exact plugins. Look at that. That's just pointless. Oh, and here they are. Secure custom fields. Wonder why that one's there instead of maybe AFC. Okay, that is enough there. Let's see what else I got here. Preach! Yes, that's the. I've got a pulpit today, man. I'm all by myself here. Give me a pulpit where I can just ramble. We'll see how many people come and stick and listen to it or how many I chase away. I'm hoping not to chase people away. I'm just trying to point out some of the topics that very few people want to approach and deal with here. We are live on X today. I noticed it went live. I don't know what's happening there. Edit and live cut. No, let's see. Yeah, it's maybe streaming. I really don't know. I have no idea. I'm hoping that streaming. X is very limited with what I can and can't do when I stream live to X because I can't do spaces. I would love to do it as a space, but to do X spaces, you got to run it through a phone, which is a bizarre one to me. And I just don't know how to track the conversation in X and see if it's there. At any rate, so there's untapped potential. One of the things he says here with the WordPress discovery experiment is to go in here and start changing up the front page, the featured ones, feature 8 different plugins for a week, just randomly feature 8 different plugins. See what happens to their installed numbers. I guarantee their installed numbers will go up. Some of the discussion around on WP Builds this morning was, maybe it might change it. Well, maybe there's a reason why there's less than 1,000 plugins. Well, the biggest reason why there's less than 1,000 plugins, 1,000 installs of a plugin, is because nobody knows it exists. People forget how this system started. I've been doing this podcast since WordPress 2.7, 2.8. And when I started it, there was less than 9,000 plugins in the WordPress repo. That was it, 9,000. At one point, we approached 90,000 plugins. Then they did a massive clean and purge of all the junk. It brought it down to about 40,000. It's now around 60,000. And that's just the WordPress repo. That doesn't include the tens of thousands that are not in the WordPress repo. I've got 5 plugins myself now that are not in the WordPress repo. One, because I'm not allowed in the WordPress repo. I was banned from WordPress.org 9 years ago. So at any rate, there's a lot going on with it. And if you give them a chance, if the plugin can be viewed, people will give it a chance. If they see it, if you do go search for security plugins, well, you generally get just the top security ones. You don't get anything else. You don't get other unknown ones. Maybe somebody has figured out a way to do it, but they just can't get it out there to market. That's the hardest thing when you're in a crowded market, is getting yourself seen. If you happen to write something new and unique, well, you're going to pop to the top, but there's not much left that's new and unique in WordPress. All that's left now is to improve upon what other people are doing, unless you happen to luck into a under-tapped niche of WordPress. The other thing is you can go into the recommended stuff here and have the recommended be something besides the exact same as the featured plugins. Maybe swap it around to say this week are recommendations for security plugins, and have 10 or 15 security plugins, including some of the ones that don't have tens of thousands of installs. Let's go, while we're playing with this and goofing with it, we're going to go wander back and reactivate the Fair plugin, just so you can see what we've got going here. Now let's go pocket the. All right. You see, even the recommended for fair gets you. Oh, it gets you the same stuff. Okay, they're pulling it. Oh no, they had Lightspeed Cache and Kismet's further down the list. Oh, they give you more than just a couple. Which ones have I got here? Yeah. Oh, this is the recommended one. So they've only got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8. Oh, they only got 8. Whereas the fair plugin gives you, not sure, 15, 20, 25. Keep going down. It just keeps. Oh, okay. Yeah. Gives you about 20, 25 or so. And they give you some that are more useful. The part I like the most, though, is what they have as featured. And this is a whole new set of plugins that might not be found. Better categories images, security checker for themes, references. These are even different than the ones I did my video on a couple of weeks ago, or a week and a half or so ago. Manage IPOS, automotive feed importer. Nope, that one was there, but it was in a different spot. Fetchify. Oh, so they give you something different to look at. So at any rate, this is one spot here. And the other thing that Nick did, oh, here's the, oh, so he created, this is the tool. Do we got a link here to the tool? Yeah, here it is. He built a dream creation tool, a search tool for WordPress plugins. So his is a little different than most. He does the search at the WordPress repo, but he created it tapping into their API keys, and you can type in anything you want. We'll pop in security and just have it pop up security plugins. Oh, search. There we go. Those aren't search or security plugins. Did I spell it right? SECURITY. Yeah, there we go. It's popular, all categories, any. And he's got them set up so that it only shows no, for some reason it's not changing. Okay, maybe it's having a glitch in it. Oh, well, there's a WordPress security. Load more. Let's see what we got. Jetpack, some security. Okay, it's not really doing much. All right, so, well, this more on that one. Sorry, Nick. I tried to demo it live and it failed. That's what happens with me. I always find the edge cases on things that won't work. I'm good for that. At any rate, go check this one out. And if it's working for you, then you'll be able to find some plugins. Now, back to the uniqueness of it. What he does is he has them only showing just the images first. You can click through to it to end up back in the WordPress repo to see it. But he shows the title of it, and then he shows any screenshots that they have, which is a very useful tool because even when I'm searching for a plugin, one of the first things I'll do is like, oh, that looks interesting. Then I'll go see, well, what does it do for me for settings? Where's it going to put stuff? What's it going to do? So this is a very useful one. So go check that one out and see what we got. Where else can we wander on into? Now, I've still got a couple other quick things here. While I'm talking about Nick, he has created a very cool tool. If you're writing WordPress plugins and in your first of your plugins and you don't have a default setup for your README file, he has created a WordPress README file generator. You can import your existing README, have it rewritten, but it takes in your basic information, your contributors, your tags, your version info, your description, your installation instructions, your frequently asked questions, your change log, all of that. And then you can download that README text file and have it nicely formatted for WordPress, which is very nice, especially in your first couple of plugins when you're creating them. Could even be useful further down the road when you're creating a new one. So I thought that's very nice. He's actually been building and putting out some really cool tools lately. So go check out his stuff. You can find him on X and other places, and you'll find in the show notes there will be links to this. So that's enough about the WordPress plugin repo and my viewpoint that they are manipulating the search function back here. I had to search for a plugin today, and again, I put the exact name of the plugin. It didn't even show on the first 3 pages. I had to put the exact name of the plugin with the author's name to get the plugin. So this is how badly the search function for WordPress is broken. Or in my personal viewpoint, it's manipulated. But I have no way of knowing that for sure. That's just my viewpoint on it. All right. Let's go talk about a couple of other quick things here. Now, this is one that people seem to think it's been big news on X for the last couple of days for some strange reason. Shopify released a plugin for WordPress. Oh my God, it's going to kill WooCommerce. Yeah, no. Just get that out of your head, folks. It's not going to kill WooCommerce. Nothing's going to happen to WooCommerce. You know, they here's one here from X. Don't, start selling on WordPress with Shopify. And the guy's like, didn't have this on my bingo card, but WooCommerce should be shaking in their boots. No. All it's going to do is make it easier for those that have been using Shopify to want to have themselves a decent SEO blog that they can draw people in with articles and not have to mess with the Shopify interface, which is a minor pain in the neck for creating posts and other miscellaneous stuff. I'm working through pulling a client off Shopify right now. So at any rate, no, that's all it does. It's just another embed Shopify store into your WooCommerce website or to your WordPress website. And a couple of other notations on it. Let's see. Come on, get the red things. There we go. Rudolfo Meligi. I can't. Sorry, Rudolfo. I butchered your last name. I'm really good at that. If it's not practice, I butcher them really well. Okay, he tried out the Shopify WooCommerce plugin, so you don't have to waste your time. And his report is as follows. Well, yeah, you can go get the plugin from Shopify's website. I would hope they would freely give out the plugin. Without a Shopify account, adding products to your website requires you to have a Shopify subscription. So there's one problem, but if you're going to be doing this, you already have a Shopify subscription or you're considering it. The plugin, lightweight, it embeds your Shopify store in WordPress. So it's basically a fancy iframe is all it really is. Nothing too special for this. Sliding cart is provided out of the box. Bing, bing, bing. I forgot to turn off my notifications. Stop that again. There we go. Go away, notifications. All right. Sliding cart for the products. Customers will do all their checkout through Shopify. So whatever is managed over there is managed over there. Product order management happens entirely at Shopify. It's fast and stable. I suppose it's just a big fancy iframe embed is basically what it boils down to. Everything is managed over on there. If you're already using WooCommerce, it might feel more like a sales channel versus an actual plugin. You know, all this big noise that everyone's making, I looked at it and went, well, no. And then, of course, it didn't take WooCommerce long to come up with something to compare it. So you can compare to see what is available through Woo and Shopify, all their 3 different plans. Because they have 3 different plans. It starts $105 a month for the Shopify Grow. Wow, that's pricey. That's almost as pricey as buying WooCommerce plugins. Now, as much as I like Woo, I don't like their plugins because of their pricing structure. Their pricing structure is ludicrous. I think I have 1 or 2 legacy plugins, but they abandoned them. That way they didn't have to keep them up to date, and they legacied out. What they did was they recreated them with a new name so they could charge their new pricing. I've been upset with WooCommerce ever since Automatic Bottom, because I was dealing with WooCommerce long before Automatic Bottom. Automatic has taken them from they were really affordable then in Automatic Bottom, and within a short period of time, they were no longer affordable for their plugins. If you can't afford the Woo plugins, there's lots of other options, and if all else fails, write it yourself or hire a programmer to write it for you. Anyway, let's go down the line here. Data ownership. The data ownership is always there with Woo, it's just the only thing here that you get the same in Shopify that you get in WooCommerce is full theme customization. That's really it. You get nothing else. They compared a few admins, like staff accounts in Shopify. You got to pay big time dollars extra for 5 or more. Support, it depends. Woo's got support, inventory locations. You can extend as you want. Yeah, it takes a little bit of work in WooCommerce to extend out to multiple inventory locations, but they don't. Now, payment processing, at least they're comparing their Woo payment pricing to WooCommerce, which I wouldn't use Woo payments, but there's lots of other options to avoid paying that extra fee. Supported payment gateways. There's 70 plus extensions in the WooCommerce market, 100 extensions throughout everything else, throughout Shopify. Transaction fee for not using native payment gateway. Well, it'd be hard for WooCommerce to charge a transaction fee for not using the native payment gateway, because of course it is an open source product. But if Shopify, you don't use their native payment gateway, they charge you an additional transaction fee. Well, they're already making a transaction fee if you do use their native payment gateway. Gift cards. Yeah, there's a plugin from WooCommerce for that, but there's lots of other really great plugins for it. I reviewed a couple of them many months back when I needed one for a website. I had to go through because WooCommerce wanted way too much for their plugin. Discount codes, coupons, all of that. Okay, pay with deposits. Allow shoppers to place a deposit on an item. Yeah, it's possible. It takes a little bit of setup. Custom checkout. This is where WooCommerce excels, is customizing the checkout system. Branded checkout page. Yeah, you can customize it to your heart's content. Shipping taxes. Anyway, just wandering down the line. Digital products. You can't sell the digital products with Shopify, which of course there's a lot of people in the WordPress world that are selling digital products, and courses, which are digital products, etc. All of that good stuff. So anyway, it's a nice comparison so you can see exactly what's going on and why. Just ignore all the people. WooCommerce isn't going anywhere. They've lost their approximate share of the market right now for e-commerce. But in my viewpoint, I've only touched on playing with the Fluent while it's in beta. I got to play with it a little bit, and it's really looking really nice. I haven't gone back to play with it since, but the Fluent cart, I think, might actually be a WooCommerce, not a killer, but it's going to make a serious dent in their stranglehold of the e-commerce system for WordPress. There was several other really great e-commerce plugins, but not very many. SureCart seems like a pretty nice solution. Yeah, I haven't tried SureCart, so that one would be nice. But I think Fluent Cart, which is still, I believe, in beta, hasn't been fully released yet. I think that's going to be really nice. What little bit I've touched on is really nice, and how much comes with their free version from the anticipations of it, I believe. I think they're going to make a big dent in the world for it. All right, let's go. Where else do I got going up here? I've got... Oh, here's something. Yes, I read Reddit, folks. Believe it or not, Reddit has some entertaining conversation. Yes, it's a dumpster fire, and yes, there's a ton of crap there, but every once in a while, somebody puts something up that has some interesting viewpoints in it. All right, it's a guilty pleasure. What can I say? All right, this guy here, his title was "You Don't Need a Plugin for That." And he does have a point, because as he starts off, you see, watch somebody dump a 2 meg plugin in there for adding a contact form. You know, it comes with all kinds of things, an email marketing suite, CRM, analytics. That's, I'm not sure which one that would be. It could be any of them. I personally use Gravity Forms, which is lightweight and easy, but it is a premium plugin and it works very well. I've been paying for it since they were brand new. I was one of their early adopters for Gravity Forms. But during the conversation that they were having here, there was a couple of people that popped in there. And let's see if I can find it. Nope, I should have highlighted it to make sure I had it. There were some really good comments made about why plugins are needed and how they are majorly beneficial to it. And sometimes making a plugin is the best way. In fact, the reality is either when you need functionality for WordPress, you are writing a plugin. If you take that code, you dump it into the functions file for the theme, it's the same as taking that code and dumping it into a plugin file and creating a custom plugin. There's no difference. You're still adding a code load to your WordPress website, whether it's loaded from the functions file or loaded from the plugin folder as a plugin. There's no difference. The thing is some things that need to be, anytime you need to expand or add something here, you have to add code somewhere. Even if you're just going to hard code a old-fashioned, oh God, I can't remember what it's called now, or how to put a contact form with all of the code right there in the form, the HTML document for submitting it. God, it's been years since I've done that. You're still adding code. So no matter how you go about it, you're adding code to your site. So a plugin is always needed. You need a plugin for that, whether it's one you write yourself and make sure you write it as light as you need it to be, or whether you download and install an over-bloated plugin, which is where it comes in handy to talk to a professional and see what the professionals have to say. Like, hey, okay, well, we can do it this way, or we can do it this way. Which way would you prefer? Or just let the professional handle it, and they'll usually do it the right way, unless you get a half-assed professional. Let's see. Oh, I know what it was. That's where I had this article information. Okay, let's jump into something else here. Is WordPress slowly turning into a SaaS, SaaS platform? And what does that mean for plugin developers? Now, this is a very good discussion. The links for this particular Reddit thread are in the show notes, because there was a really great point made on here, and I did highlight this one. This fellow here was illustrating that the WordPress.org and WordPress.com have been showing Automatic's tightening control to blur the lines between the two. And the October 24, 2024 ACF takeover, which as you can see now, they promote SCF, which is the ACF takeover, in their system, and they forked it. And they had never done one for the reasons they claimed it was for security reasons, but the only reason they couldn't update the security was because they were unable to get in there and access their account to update the code that they had already updated. So at any rate, but one of the things he noted in here was what was known as Guideline 18. And I'd never heard of Guideline 18 for WordPress. And I thought, okay, what is this one here? They have a lot of oddball guidelines that they will use from time to time. I've been party to them actually changing guidelines because I called their bluff on them, and they went, oh, and they rewrote them in live time. I actually have a live time article on that. You can go dig it up on the WP Plugins website if you search hard enough. At any rate, Guideline 18 grants WordPress, or Automatic, the right to maintain the directory for disabling or removing plugins not covered by existing rules and making changes to plugins in the interest of public safety even without developer consent. And what he's talking about here was weaponizing Guideline 18 for when someone becomes obnoxious, irritable, no longer in favor with the top elite crowd. I thought this one was a good example of how the guidelines have been weaponized in recent times. So at any rate, that there is what we've got going there. What else have I got here? I got no questions here. I'm trying to monitor the questions here. I don't know if there's any questions on Twitter because I can't figure out how to watch that feed. So I don't know if anyone's in there. I know it's streaming to Twitter, and hopefully it'll be reviewable there, but we'll see what happens. This is another one of my weeks of experimentation with multi-streaming. Once I perfect and figure out the Twitter's multi-streaming, I will extend the multi-streaming out to other platforms. The nice thing about the multi-streaming is it's not costing me a monthly fee to do it, because once you start learning all the little bits and pieces of OBS, you start to realize that it can work. Let's pop out of that for a moment. Let's see where else we got. Okay, I know where we go next. Let's do this.
Glitch.
There we go. Okay. Going to the next item here, what I'm going to do is I'm creating a little segment for when I do the show unplugged like this. I'm going to try to grab people that are relatively unknown in the WordPress sphere, someone I've just recently discovered, or people that I follow. I follow a lot of people in the WordPress field. Some of them have very small accounts. And this guy popped up in my feed today. This is WP Rhodes, and let's go to his Twitter feed first. It's Pascal Claro, WP Rhodes, and he was talking about redesigned logos, site navigation on a new website, website he's worked on. And he's basically promoting his stuff, which is free WordPress tutorials, premium courses, plugin reviews, WordPress tools. His website looked kind of interesting. I popped around to it, a lot of really great stuff there, creating the tools, free shipping bar. So someone who could do with a little love, folks, go check him out and see what he's got and share out his stuff there. I don't have any others popped in here. I just didn't remember to get them all put in, and I end up bouncing around another place. As I said at the beginning, yeah, it's ADHD fueled, and that is my life, bouncing from one thing to another as I work through all of my tons of projects and other miscellaneous things that I'm doing. And enjoying the coffee. So there's all my rants for today. There's some unpopular, well, maybe popular categories, projects. Gee, there goes the words. And there we fried. Unpopular subjects. There we go. That's what I was looking for. The word subjects. Unpopular subjects in the WordPress sphere. So those of you that are sitting there listening to me, got any questions? Want any things you'd like to see me explore? Next week's show will be one with Amber and I. And unless I get an interview coming, actually, the weekend after that, let's go take a look here. Let's wander through here. Next week's show will be Amber and I. for next week. But the following week is, if I don't get an interview, I'll be back with Unplugged. I'll be continuing the Unplugged show until I've got interviews booked. But the following week, on the 27th of October, my daughter's on her honeymoon. So that will probably be an Unplugged show. I will go crazy with it for the Unplugged show. Then after that, we'll go back into whatever happens. Either I've got an interview or Unplugged show. So you could end up hearing me ramble on. And as I do this more and more, I will prepare the show better and better. This one here was basically, late Saturday. It's like, oh, I don't have an interview. Nobody booked it. I better prepare a show. I spent Sunday trying to figure out a thing for it. Didn't come up with an idea until late yesterday, and I spent most of today prepping for it. So, believe it or not, folks, a podcast takes a fair amount of work to pull together. As Ryan has found out, just putting together a newsletter takes hours to produce a decent newsletter. Even after you get everything automated, it's getting the content together and then making it make sense. All right. Since we don't have much else here, I don't have much else to showcase on here. Let's see. Let's go through what little notes I've got here. We've covered up all of Nick's stuff. We've copied up the Shopify stuff. We've copied up the WordPress stuff in Reddit. We've done that. Yeah, we'll leave that one there. Oh, we've got another one here. I couldn't find this fellow on Twitter, but this one here was something I picked off of Nick's website, someone named Dave Verse, and he continued on with the evangelism is good chaos, and that is for WordPress, and we are working on a new batch of Kool-Aid. We've got a whole bunch of it. The new kid, or the cool kids, not the new kids, the new kids who are cool kids, and the cool kids are returning to WordPress and are recreating themselves in WordPress. WordPress has had a revival. If nothing else, that Mullenweg done last year when he went on his tirade and his rant, I think he revived a lot of people that were sitting and had just become lethargic with what they were doing with WordPress. And they suddenly got excited. The other thing I believe that has made WordPress so much more exciting now is the usage of AI in everything. I know it's helped re-excite me in that now I'm able to actually produce the plugins I dream of instead of having to pay somebody to write them, because most of the time I dream of a plugin. It's a simple little thing. It's not very big, not hard to write, but my problem is I can't type worth crap. No matter how many years I spent taking courses or learning to type or whatever those typing things are, programs for your computer. Even when I was going to college, I only managed to get to 35 words a minute for typing. And then when I didn't have to do it all the time, it quickly fell back. So it's like typing is a skill that's not everybody can master, and I'm one of those. But with AI, it can write the code for me, and then I can review and check the code and make sure it's working. And if it gets above and beyond me, I've got a programmer buddy who will happily look over code. All right. Wow, we've popped at 6. Welcome, folks. Welcome. I have no idea what's happening out there in Twitterville. Xville. I keep wanting to call it Twitter. I'll probably continue to call it Twitter the same way I call some of the landmarks around here by their original name, even though they've changed them 2 decades ago. I still use their original name for many landmarks. It's one of those things you get ingrained into. You'll slowly adapt to the new name, but you'll be stuck with it. All right, well, of all that, I think I managed to carry this for almost an hour, and I didn't really anticipate it carrying this long. Yeah, I've recorded 45 minutes, so I think I will call it at that point there. Anybody got any comments for me to carry it on up? Well, let the comments play for a minute and reconnect back to the internet. Yes, I downloaded and stole that sound out. That was the sound of my early years on the internet continuously. All right. Well, thank you everyone for showing up. I greatly appreciate it. I'm impressed that so many people hung around as long as they did to my continuous ramblings. All right. Thanks, everyone. We're going to play a little music. Carry us on out of here.
These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. A quarter after midnight, and I'm watching the wall. Sometimes I feel so uptight, I just can't sleep at all. Every day doing the same old thing, we're losing time. The weekend comes, we gotta have some fun and rewind. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. I feel the rope tightening, choking off our air. We need to grab some lightning. Friday's almost here. Caught in a web, we need to cut this thread. We're hanging by. Where is it said you have to be half dead to survive? These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder. We're gonna make time stand still. We gotta feel the hunger, hanging over the edge just to taste the thrill. These are the days of thunder.
Alrighty, folks. That's all I've got for you now. Take care. Bye-bye.
my god, that is amazing!
Oh no. Obviously, we just lost the satellite feed.